You're muted, Miss Fair.
They're coming in now.
Looking good, Ben.
Trying to keep up with my mentee.
Oh, yes, looking good.
Thank you, Dale. This should be fun. The Three Musketeers are together, Miss Fair.
Oh, yes.
Civil rights.
Musketeers.
Civil rights.
All right, we got almost the majority of everyone is in, so we might not have to wait 5 minutes. People were ready. We already got 25 out of the 30 in.
Wow.
So hi everybody. Most of you guys know me. I'm Jasmine Canick. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. I just want to make sure everybody who wants to cover this gets a chance to get in, and then we will get started. For those of you guys who have done this with me before, you know that I love to utilize the chat section. So if you need a file or you have a burning question, drop it in there for me. We will do questions after Carl and everyone speaks. So at that point, if you have a question, you can raise your hand and ask it directly to the participants.
The last name, Carl, Kizzee. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
You hear that, reporters? Kizzee. So when you're on TV tonight, for my TV people, don't say Kizzee, Kizzee. Okay. All right, Jamon, you can take it away. We can go ahead and get started.
There he is. Okay.
You ready, Jamon?
I'm Jamon Hicks of Douglas Hicks Law. Thank you for joining us for this press conference regarding a $35 million claim for damages that has been filed on behalf of the family of Mr. Dijon Kizzee that was tragically killed by Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department on August 31st, 2020. Joining us for this press conference is the Civil Rights Dream Team that's led by attorneys Mr. Carl Douglas, Mr. Benjamin Crump, and Mr. Dale Galipo. We also have Ms. Fair, who is the aunt of Mr. Kizzee. Mr. Douglas will discuss the details in the claim for damages. He will then be followed by attorneys Crump and also Mr. Galipo. And then we will also hear from Mr. Kizzee's aunt. We again thank you for joining us. And Mr. Douglas, it's on you.
Thank you so much. As Jamon has told you, my name is Carl Douglas, but to be clear, this is Ben Crump's case, and I am honored to serve as one of his soldiers. We are here because there's a civil rights virus that is raging among the Sheriff's Department in Los Angeles County. There's a virus of excessive force against Black and brown residents of this community. And we hope that the death of Dijon Kizzee can be the first antidote, the first vaccine, if you will, because we believe the only true vaccine for this virus is the light of truth. Dijon was killed on August 31st, 2020. Regrettably, I have been hired to represent two other Black and brown families who have been shot by deputies employed by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department since that day. So this virus is really raging. On that day, Dijon was riding his bicycle through the streets of South Los Angeles. He was riding just a few blocks away from where I was raised in this great city of ours. And he encountered two police officers then that were poorly trained. One was a trainee who was a passenger officer, and the other was a training officer. And they decided, for reasons that we still don't understand, to stop this man who was doing nothing but riding a bicycle through one of the neighborhoods in which he enjoyed. And then there was an altercation, and we still don't understand why. Was it because he was a man riding while Black in a Black and brown community? I would hope not, but the evidence regrettably points to something that sinister as that. And then during the course of this struggle, a gun drops out of clothing, apparently, that Mr. Kizzee is carrying in his arms. Witnesses said that he was trying to run away from the officers. Witnesses said that he never threatened any officer with anything. And then, once that gun dropped to the ground, witnesses say that the training officer fired 4 times, striking Mr. Kizzee in his chest. And after Mr. Kizzee fell to the ground, witnesses say the other officer joined, and they then both opened up and struck Mr. Kizzee's body more than 16 different times. We, the family, hired Dr. Jamon Hicks to perform an independent autopsy on Mr. Kizzee's body. And this body sheet mentions exhibits E8 and E9. Those are entry wounds that struck Mr. Kizzee's left lung. E8 struck the upper chamber, and E9 struck the lower chamber of his left lung. And Dr. Hicks believes that those bullets were inflicted in rapid succession while Mr. Kizzee was bending forward, nothing in his hands. And Dr. Hicks will say that he did not die simply from the infliction of those bullets, but he suffocated because the blood filled slowly into the upper chamber of his lungs and then into the lower chamber of his lungs while he lay down on the ground grasping for air. And instead of immediately rendering medical aid, these deputies gathered first. They collected some sort of a shield. And while Mr. Kizzee's lungs were filling up with blood, they approached him like he was some sort of an animal holding a machine gun and pointing it at them. So Ben Crump has assembled what I believe is the greatest collection of civil rights talent ever assembled together. And we will collectively hope to bring light on not only this particular case, but on this virus that is raging in our community. Folks, I am reminded of the words of the poet laureate at the inauguration, Miss Amanda Gorman. And her words are particularly touching to me because she went to the same high school, New Roads, as my son Robert. And her parents met each other at Northwestern University, the same school in Evanston, Illinois, that I spent my formative years. So I am touched by her sentiment about the importance of being the light. Because as she so ably said, there's always light if you are brave enough to be it. Folks, there's always light if you are brave enough to see it. And with the filing of this $35 million claim, we intend to bring a bright light on the virus that is raging in South Los Angeles. And the vaccine for that virus is truth. And now I'll turn it over to our leader, Mr. Ben Crump.
Thank you so much, mentor. You know, literally, when you think about great civil rights lawyers, you in Los Angeles have two of the finest, not just in Los Angeles, but in the United States of America. I am honored to fight for the family of Dijon Kizzee in this matter. You see, we all learned from Carl Douglas during the OJ case of why we have to cross-examine what police officers say and not accept it as the gospel. And so I am one of those young lawyers who will forever be grateful to Carl Douglas sitting in the pew, witnessing how we learned a new religion after watching him and Johnny Cochran perform in the OJ trial that we still apply to this day all over the country, no matter whether it's George Floyd in Minneapolis, Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky, Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Trayford Pellerin in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Rayshard Brooks, Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, the list goes on, Dale and Carl. The three things we will remember 2020 most for is obviously the COVID-19 pandemic, number one. Number two, the presidential election. And number three, for this epidemic of Black people being killed unjustly by the very people who were supposed to protect and defend them. And so Carl Douglas talked about how witnesses said he was trying to get away, but you can use your own eyes and see that it's real what Carl says, as only he can say, this is a virus. This is a virus and it's plaguing our communities. And so we have to find a vaccine for this virus. Other than that, it will be just as prolific in 2021 as it was in 2020. So that's why we filed this $35 million claim to send a message from the mountaintop that we won't continue to let the people who we pay taxes to continue to kill our children. Miss Fair is on the call, and you know, when she called, it was heartbreaking, and I immediately called my two brothers because I know they understand the history and the culture of the disproportionate discrimination towards Black people in Los Angeles County. And I don't think we will ever be able to fully get rid of this virus than what we are doing now to bring the truth of light to the matter. We're going to speak truth to power. It's going to be shocking to some of you. It's going to be riveting, and it's going to be unbelievable. But people like Jasmine, people like Jamon, people like Carl Douglas, people like Dale Galipo, and people of color all throughout Los Angeles know that this is true. This is our reality, that they unjustifiably, unnecessarily, and senselessly shoot first and ask questions later. And that is evident here in the city of Los Angeles. Before I can conclude, I just want to say, Los Angeles, you know, you all have supported greatly George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's family and Jacob Blake's families. But now this is one of your own. We need to stand up for Dijon Kizzee because his life matters. And we plan to make sure that the leaders of Los Angeles County will acknowledge that his life matters. And that's why we're filing this lawsuit, to deal with this virus that the great Carl Douglas so ably articulated to you all. It is a virus, and we have to call it what it is, because viruses kill. And if they're not dealt with, they kill more in a more immediate manner. We cannot let his death be swept under the rug. And Attorney Douglas, I will turn it back over to you. My heart is filled because you articulated the correct reference to what this really is going on in America. It is a virus that the Black community is having to deal with, while others stand by in the spectator seats, witnessing it and looking away, saying it doesn't affect our community.
Thank you so much, Ben. And now I'd like to hear from Miss Fletcher Fair, who is Dijon's aunt. Miss Fair, please say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I would just like to say thanks to everyone that's helping me in Dijon's case. I'm missing him so much, and I really missed him during Christmas holidays because he would be here in my home with his brother. I think it was really senseless. It was downright dirty, low down the way they did him. I have no respect anymore for sheriffs. I don't even like looking at him anymore on the street, and it just hurts that bad. And it's sad because I had respect for all police officers and sheriff, you know. He was a loving child. I don't care what he was or who he was or what color he was. He was human. He was my nephew, and I loved him very much, as anyone would love their nephews or children. He was no animal. He didn't deserve to die like that and be alone like that. And I just wonder what was on his mind when they attacked him. I really do, because he would always call me. And to see when they called and told me that, I almost killed myself trying to get there to see where he was, and I couldn't get to him. And he was just laying there. And like I told him, I wasn't moving until his body came up off the ground, and I wanted to see him. And they let me see him. And it hurt. It hurt so much. And it still hurts, and I don't think it'll ever go away. But I just want to thank everybody for everything you're doing for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Fair. And that is what powers me, ladies and gentlemen. The human side of these tragedies is what so often is overlooked. With each of these deaths, there are other Fletcher Fairs that Ben Crump, myself, and Dale Galipo fight for every day of our lives. So please join me in welcoming the third member of the Civil Rights Dream Team, one of the finest, most successful lawyers in the state of California, and the only person in the history of this state that is the reigning trial lawyer of the year for the Consumer Attorneys of California and the Consumer Attorneys of Los Angeles at the same time. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome my brother to this team, Mr. Dale Galipo.
Thank you, Carl. And it's really an honor and privilege to be part of this team with my good friends, Ben Crump, Carl Douglas, and Jamon Hicks. All great lawyers doing incredible work, not only in California, but of course, Ben, across the country. And you know, what Ms. Fair stated is very important. This is a terrible loss for her. Sometimes people forget the impact a death has on family members and friends. During this year, a lot of us have lost loved ones or know loved ones who had been lost. I lost my father, as Carl knows, in November, and it is heartbreaking. And that's why police officers need to show a reverence for human life. And as Ms. Fair also stated, she's afraid of the police. She doesn't even want to look at a police officer. And that's part of the problem that we're fighting, the distrust of the police. People wonder why people of color don't want to have contact with a police officer or why they run from the police. It's because what they have seen and what they know growing up, people shot at, brutalized by the police. And this is another example. And the majority of the cases I've seen, it's people of color being shot by the police. And that needs to stop. And it's not only lawyers and people of color who see that and want that to change. It's all races and all people, which was demonstrated this year by the diversity in the demonstrators. And so we are hoping through this case, we can again bring attention to this issue and make change. But I lastly want to say the culture has to change. Officers need to change. The culture at the departments have to change. They not only have to start taking accountability, they have to start thinking about who they're hiring, retraining these officers, disciplining these officers with civil and or criminal prosecution, because this problem continues and people have had enough. And we're hoping through this case and other cases, we can make a change so that people of color are not discriminated against the way they have been for decades and the way that continues. And this is another senseless shooting. What did he really do? And why all of the shots? And why multiple shots when he's unarmed laying on the ground? Is that really necessary? Is that what we want our children to see? Is that what we want people all over the country to see? That's what a police officer does? We need to change. And I'm very hopeful through this incredible team we have together and through this very important case, we can make a statement and we can make change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my good brother. Folks, Dale speaks about what so is important for all of us to remember. Police are trained killers. And until there is a shift from this warrior mentality, a mentality of us versus them, to more of a guardian mentality, only when there is that cultural shift and accountability will there ever be real change. So I know Dale and Ben as well are hopeful with the elevation and the election of a new district attorney here in Los Angeles, that there is hopefulness for a brighter day. Now, mechanically, as many of you know, the claim for damages was filed yesterday. The county will be given 45 days to reject the claim, a rejection is expected. We will then file a lawsuit. We're going to file it in state court, most likely, on behalf of the estate and on behalf of Mr. Kizzee's father. We will file that case in state court, more likely sometime in the early summer, and the litigation process will then begin. We are very hopeful that soon after our lawsuit is filed, we will learn the names of the killers of Dijon Kizzee. One of the difficulties that Ms. Fair and Dijon's father, Edwin, confronts is the emptiness of not even knowing the names of the people who are responsible for their loved one's death. So I urge Sheriff Villanueva to show the humanity, if you will, of disclosing the names of the two officers behind which you stand, I am sure. But justice, truth, and light cry out for identifying the names of the deputies that were involved. And with that, we thank you for coming here today. We regret that this is just one of a number of wrongful shooting cases in Los Angeles. This virus is raging, and truth will be the only vaccine. Now, if there are any questions.
All right. So if you have a question, if you're a working member of the media and you have a question, you can raise your hand and I will bring you on and you can identify yourself and your media outlet and ask your question. Ooh, thanks, Tina. I like my pearls too. I love it when reporters tell me they like the stuff I have on. All right, I think you did another great job, Carl. You know, when a room full of hardcore journalists and reporters don't have any questions. I mean, I see Rob Hayes, I see Slauson Girl, I see CNN, I see Marla at NBC, and they don't have any questions. You must have really hit everything that they needed from you. So hats off to you, Ben, you, Dale. You all hit it because no one has any questions.
Thank you so much.
I guess we're good. So thank you, everybody. And if you need anything afterwards, any files, copies of anything, you guys know how to reach me, get in touch with me. But other than that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up then. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank
Miss
you,
Fair.
Stay
Carl,
safe.
have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk when you get back. Ben, I'll be in touch with you in the next week or so, brother. Keep up the great work. I'm always very happy and proud of what you're doing.
Hey, thank you. I love you all. Love you, Dale. Love you, Carl. And I mean that with all my heart. Jamon, love you, brother. Thank
Yes,
you.
brother.
Stay well.
Thank
Stay
you
well.
for everything as well,
Thank you,
Jamon.
Jasmine.
And thank you, Jasmine. Great
Thank you,
job and great
Jasmine.
pearls and great glasses.
Thank you.
Hey,
You
Carl,
guys,
I
man.
meant what I meant how you continue to teach us, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Bye, Miss Fletcher Fair. Thank you.
God
Thank
bless you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.